Alchemist Line here, and today we are going to take Daryl Dixon from The Walking Dead for a spin. So, let's begin. I don't think you can really play Daryl without utilizing his trademark crossbow. So that is really where I started with this loadout, is to make a crossbow loadout to kind of really get that plain Daryl as a character feel. Um, yeah, so let's take a look. The challenge with the crossbow, and the reason I put this thing in the collection book when I first pulled it out, is because I wanted it for Stoneheart. But apparently crossbows and bows are different when it comes to Stoneheart, and crossbows don't work with her. So I put it right in there. I am not a good shot. This is generally a loadout I probably would never have tried if it wasn't for this. But it certainly is a fun one. I've been playing it all day and I like it. So how I set up this crossbow, and you'll see more when we go into the loadout aspect, but I have reload speed. That's because I want this to be a quick fire weapon, especially because it's my main arsenal against the husks when I'm using Daryl, especially at a distance. So reload speed, damage, then we switched it to physical. I don't need any elements. We're purely physical when we're talking with Daryl. Then magazine size, having that extra shot actually comes in handy, and then damage to miss monsters and bosses, which also comes very handy. This thing might take 2 shots to hit a husky husk, but when it comes to blasters and takers, you can get them in 1 or 2 shots depending on what level you're at. And then I added the 6th perk, standing in place for 2 seconds grants 11% damage and stacks 5 times. So you can get 55% more damage if you're somehow able to stand for 10 seconds in a spot. And I chose that one. I had played with a different one. So if we go to the 6th perk, I did try the headshot eliminations cause an explosion. The only problem is when you look at my loadout, I wasn't seeing the results of that as much. So I took it off, but there's a lot of interchanging that could be done on this. But that is the crossbow that I use. I'm also including the bazooka in this loadout. One of my favorite episodes and Daryl scenes was when the Saviors were kind of first coming around. They got stopped and attacked, and Daryl got brought to the back of their vehicle, and then out of nowhere came back and just blew up the entire group that was holding them hostage with an RPG. So we're throwing this in homage to that because that was an awesome scene. And yeah, this really helps in the higher level missions, especially if you're getting kind of over inundated with husks. This is a great husk clearer, but I like to use the crossbow mostly. This is more of a in case of emergency kind of pull this out. So my movement speed weapon that I'm going to be using, not a whole lot of movement speed, but this is the closest thing I can find that looks like something Daryl would utilize for a melee. I can't picture him running around with a Guardian's Will. Blackbait's a little too fantasy oriented for that kind of world, so this is what I went with. Stabsworth the Third. We're doing the double attack speed, movement speed, damage the miss monsters. Again, I just like to be able to clear this out fast in this kind of loadout. And then heading an enemy with this weapon grants 6 movement speed for 5 seconds. That way you move faster. That 6th perk being the way it is really works well with having that double attack speed, because if you look, it's just over a quarter of a second. So in 1.25 seconds, I'll be able to have basically a triple movement speed weapon that allows me to run around and get where I need to be, as long as I'm hitting something, and that's a fair trade-off. So with the crossbow in mind, I put Redline Ramirez in primary, and she is going to give an increase to the sniper damage by 17%. But because I'm doing the fast reload speed, my whole goal in this is to make the arrows the deadly piece, and we're firing 1 at a time in successions of 7. So the faster I can fire that 7 and get that quick reload, I can do that all over again. And so the fire rate is helping out in that. And so that's why she's in primary. In addition to that, her abilities can kind of give that like Walking Dead Daryl type feel. They've used grenades in the past, so I'm just throwing that in there. So he has the frag grenades as well as the war cry. Shockwave is in there. They're not using guns and bullets as much, so I figure just like you can count that as a blow or a punch, because they kind of have to fight them off physically sometimes, and that's kind of where I'm going with this whole loadout. So for the team perk, we're going with Preemptive Strike. And what that is for each hero of epic or higher rarity with at least 4 stars, it will increase the damage by 6.5%. So if all 5 are set up, that's 32.5% more damage I'm getting on any husk that has full health. So this is where I'm like one-shotting all of the mist monsters and stuff, because I'm already getting boost of damage with the weapon. Now I'm getting this extra damage, and it's quite deadly. I really like this as a team perk for this loadout. I was trying to initially get totally rocking out, but to get rid of 2 of these support team members really hindered the build. So I really wanted to keep this core group together. It starts with Wukong, and he is basically my mock Stoneheart for this loadout, because every 6 range weapon, he does an explosive damage which deals 37 base damage and a 1 tile radius. And you would think that would be almost negating some of the effect that you might get with Preemptive Strike, but that 37 base damage is ripping these smaller husks especially apart and giving a good enough chunk that I don't have to worry about that damage loss, because they're already like half health. 1 more shot will kill them. So it is a great perk to have in this loadout, and it's been a lifesaver a few times. In addition to Wukong, we're going to take a look at Rex Jonesy. And basically all this is adding 3% of our current health to the damage of the next range weapon hit, and it happens every second when you're shooting. So not every arrow is going to have that bonus, but it definitely helps when it hits. And that's again making those arrows super strong. Next thing we're doing is Sure Shot. It increases the sniper critical damage. Now my sniper critical rating isn't that high, but I'm shooting enough shots out in the run of a couple seconds that it occasionally hits, and when it does, again, it's making those darts super effective the best way I can. And there's limited sniper builds or heroes that we have, so it's really just using the few that we have and mixing it in with some stuff to help. And that's really what we're doing for damage. The next 2 are purely health oriented, because I don't have totally rocking out. I have nothing giving me health, so I have Survivalist and I have Burger Buff. I find I need these. Your close quarters almost all the time in this build, just because of the nature of it. Like as soon as you start to shoot with that crossbow, even at a distance, they start running at you. So it turns into a close quarters battle, but you can kind of keep your pace. Just like quickened, things like that. The lobbers, those are the things you really got to contend with, and having heals to counteract some of their negative effects is very helpful. 88 Eliminate and Collect. It's on a public match, so I'm on mute, but it just kind of highlights all the cool things about this loadout, and you kind of see how it plays. But I've done a 132 encampment, managed to get almost 9,000 combat, so it's still just as deadly in the higher levels, it's just I'm not dying as much. And it just happened to be a good public game, so I thought I'd show it. That's my video for today. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate your time. Hope you find this information helpful, and as always, I'll catch you around.